Hey boys and girls, tonight we are going to read Rip Van Winkle. It's adapted by Pagine Hopkins and illustrated by John Lund. If the legends of old are true, there is a touch of magic in the Catskill Mountains. Many years ago, a simple, friendly man lived in a town at the base of those mysterious mountains. His name was Rip Van Winkle. Rip had a wife and several children. He was a kind neighbor, loved by everyone in town. When he walked through the streets, children asked for piggyback rides. Even the neighborhood dogs loved him. Sorry, I got sidetracked. One afternoon, Rip Van Winkle wandered to the top of one of the highest mountains. Suddenly, he heard someone call his name. He turned and saw no one. "Rip Van Winkle," he heard once more. Rip looked once again. This time his eyes fell on a strange little man climbing toward him. See? On his shoulder, the little man carried a huge barrel. "Would you help me with this?" the little man asked. "Of course," Rip replied. They soon entered a large clearing where Rip saw a strange group of little men. When Rip and the little men reached the group, one of the men took the barrel from Rip's hands and poured a dark liquid into a strange cup. The men motioned for Rip to drink it. Once Rip had finished several cups, he felt tired. His eyes drooped, his vision blurred, and he drifted off into a deep sleep. When Rip finally opened his eyes, it was morning. Rip was laying right where he had been when he first met the little man. "Have I been asleep here all night?" Rip exclaimed in a panic. "Mrs. Van Winkle is going to be so angry. What am I going to tell her?" See, there's the little men. Rip's looking really tired. Rip started down the mountain feeling a bit confused. As he got to his village, people looked at him with surprise. No one in town looked familiar to Rip. The people did not know Rip, and he did not know them. Finally, Rip looked down to see what everyone was staring at. A long beard flowed down to his knees. "Does anyone here know Rip Van Winkle?" Rip asked a group of people. A tall man asked Rip, "Just exactly who are you?" "I was myself," Rip said. "I fell asleep on the mountain. Now everything has changed." Right then a young woman came forward. Rip was sure he had seen her face before, but she had grown up. "What's your father's name?" Rip asked. "Oh, Rip Van Winkle was his name," said the woman. "It has been 20 years since he took off into the mountains. We have heard nothing about him since." You see, there's Rip with his long beard. Everybody's looking at him like they don't know him. They're really surprised at the story, though. "And what about your mother?" Rip asked. "She just recently passed away," said the woman. Hearing this, Rip could no longer contain himself. "I am your father," he cried as he hugged her. "Once I was a young Rip Van Winkle. Now I am old Rip Van Winkle. Doesn't anyone know me?" An old woman walked right up to Rip and put her face almost against him so she could see him clearly. "Sure enough," said the old woman. "Welcome home, Rip Van Winkle. Where have you been all these years?" It did not take Rip long to tell his story. He could not believe he had missed watching his children grow. His wife was now dead. Much of his life had passed in one night. The townspeople listened Amazed, some people regarded old Rip Van Winkle as the unluckiest man in town, but the other people did not believe that a man could sleep for 20 years. Do you? See, there's the town people getting together with Rip. He's telling his story. Do you believe his story? Do you think that could happen? I don't know. We'll do a different story next time, okay? Y'all have a wonderful night. Sleep well.